on this episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists.
I think where people fail a lot of the times on this part is they think that, hey, I went to school the same time as Pam and David did, so I should be on par with them by the end of this month or by the end of this year. But the truth of it is, this is going to be a journey, and you have to be okay with the fact that you're going to fail, and you're going to fail a lot, and you're going to fail probably for a couple of years at least. Leadership is so darn hard, and it's all experiential.
I think there's something about caring about the people that you work with. You spend more time with these people than you do with some of your favorite family members. So, pick people, find people that you can care about and you can value and you can celebrate their wins and you don't mind elevating them because, seeing them grow makes you feel good. And, it just helps give your patients a better experience and have better care. There's no downside to it.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.
Welcome back to another episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists podcast, episode number 508. I'm your host, Andrew Johnston, and thank you so much for being with us today. Well, today, I think on the intro last week I said I wasn't going to put this one out yet, but circumstances have changed, and today's episode is part 2 of the conversation with Dr. Maragliano and Dr. Rice, and we're looking at those red flags in the dental practice leadership. So in case you missed part 1, make sure you pause it here, go back and listen to that first one, and then come back when you're all caught up. It was a really fun episode to chit-chat about. I think we're actually going to do a part 3 and a part 4. There's just so many things that Dr. Rice and Dr. Maragliano have experienced in their time, and they just have so much to share. And so I think we're going to do some more of these. Now, these episodes were recorded for the Dentistry Unmasked podcast. Those are dropping next week and I think the week after. So if you have some dentist friends, if you enjoyed these episodes, make sure that you're sharing them with them. And not only just like these episodes, but Dr. Rice and Dr. Maragliano have a lot of great content out there for dentists, no matter what situation they're in, whether they're a general practitioner, whether they're doing ortho, whether they're screening for sleep apnea, whether they want to bring Botox or anything like that into their practices. They have all sorts of topics that their dentist colleagues can absolutely learn from. So please let them know about Dentistry Unmasked. And then before we jump into the episode, I just want to mention really quickly that I think a lot of times we find and focus on the problems inside of dentistry. I know I've been guilty of that, especially on the show. And actually, even the main point of this particular episode is about the faults of leadership and mistakes and things like that. I don't think that there's a problem focusing on the issues that arise. But what ends up being, I think, the concern is when we choose to either ignore the problems, refuse to recognize them, or maybe even have like overreactions to maybe smaller issues. It's okay that there are problems in dentistry. And I met a class actually over this past weekend with O'Hare University who spend a lot of their own time and effort working on themselves to be prepared to help others so that when problems do arise, they're in a situation where they can help others. And there are tons of these pockets of people out there in our dental world who are working hard in the background so that when these situations do arise, we have solutions or we can get them quickly. And I just wanted to mention that because it's something I've been thinking about quite a bit lately as we get into, nominating for awards and next year under one roof, the Sunstar Awards and all these things. There are people that are in the background that deserve to be recognized. And if you know any of them, please make sure you nominate them and get them recognized. I think there's a lot of do-gooders out there. And I think that our dental world is actually in better shape than it might appear. So don't let the problems get you down. It's this kind of like mentality that gives me hope, though. That gives me hope knowing that there are people that are out there. And I thought that maybe it'd give you some hope too. So, okay, enjoy this episode.
A tale of two hygienists.
Listen, so that's funny. And thank you for saying that. But what if you're not a natural born leader? I know I've had so many conversations with friends of mine that are practice owners and they're struggling for one thing or another. And I'm like, hey, what if you do this? And they're like, oh, I couldn't possibly do that. And I'm like, yes, you could. And I guess it doesn't come innately to everybody. I personally love leaning into awkward things until they're not awkward anymore. So I'm just one of those people, but not everybody feels that way. How do you get this? Because it's almost like you can't put the baby back in, right? Like you own the practice, you're here, you've got this team, you've got to figure this out. If you don't have those skills, how do you suggest getting them?
First of all, do you want them? Right? Because if there's no desire, doesn't matter how much money you pour into reading a book or going to a seminar, you're not going to actually walk away with anything. So, yeah, do you think that can you visualize yourself getting there? If you can, then you're in great shape. I think where people fail a lot of the times on this part is they think that, hey, I went to school the same time as Pam and David did, so I should be on par with them by the end of this month or by the end of this year. The truth of it is this is going to be a journey, and you have to be okay with the fact that you're going to fail, and you're going to fail a lot, and you're going to fail probably for a couple of years at least. Leadership is so darn hard, and it's all experiential. And so if you aren't hearing the same thing 10 times, if you aren't witnessing it first time when your associate doctor and assistant are fighting over some piece of equipment or someone broke something, and then who's going to be responsible. And if you don't go through all of these scenarios at least several times, then there's no way that you're going to be the leader that you think that you should be. And so you have to be really patient with yourself and be really big. Okay, this is a journey. I'm going to, buckle in, and it's going to be a great ride. On the other hand, there are some things that you can do for immediate effect. And I think that's what you get when you go to the seminars and you read the books and you start practicing, some of those acts, and I think you'll be surprised by kind of what you see initially.
I agree. And if you absolutely don't want any part of it, then hire somebody who can be that leader for you, and then have regularly scheduled interviews of communication with that person. So you're never totally out of the loop. It's like my one hiccup with office managers. Why does the average dentist hire an office manager? Because they don't want anything to do with leading the team, and they just put it on this person. And then they wake up one day and they realize, like, wow, I am out of luck if fill in the blank person walks away. So I'm going to let them walk all over me for 10 more years. And that's a horrible place to be. And that happens too often. So hire a leader, and then, be in great communication so you understand everything that's happening in your practice at all times, even though you need to let go and, give them the reins and let them do what they do.
It's kind of trite, and I apologize to all listeners. You're like, Andrew, that's too easy of an answer. But here's the truth of it. And by the way, my brother's going to probably hate I said this on air and whatever. My brother and I couldn't be more different as human beings. I sent him this article just the other day about, 7 things that people do that they're failures or unsuccessful in life, and why they feel like they're left behind. I know it's kind of like a sad sounding article or whatever, but it's like, I looked at it as like, okay, you live in the past, you do these things, whatever. These are why people fail. And I sent it to him. I'm like, Mike, I have nightmares about this thing. I am so wired about, and what is success and all that different stuff. Like, that's a whole different conversation. But like, I don't want to be not helpful to whoever's employing me. I don't want to be not the best at what I could possibly be for someone else. Like, it's how I'm driven. And I'm like, and I find that I'm a little bit unsatisfied sometimes with kind of where I'm at in life when that happens. He's like, I'm like, how do you feel about this? He's like, I don't know, man. I love life. Life is so great. It's so easy. It's so wonderful, whatever. People are just wired so incredibly different. And I think that, like, business owners, I think that they have to be like me, right? But if you can hire someone, to Dr. Rice's point, David's point, if you can hire someone that can be more like a Mike, a steadying figure, an even keeled person, I think honestly, like, you're going to be in pretty darn good shape. Like, there's so many personalities out there that you can like emulate if you wanted to, and you can be successful no matter what. So there's not one way of doing it, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I agree. So Anastasia and I just wrapped up watching the special on Jerry Jones, the Cowboys owner.
Yes.
Right? If you want to learn about exactly this conversation, watch that special. It's to a T. It's someone who got obsessed for all the right reasons in his personal life in this thing, and totally got in his own way, and probably stopped, a team that won 2 Super Bowls in a row from winning like another 3 or 4 in a row. And, here we are all these years later, and woe are the Dallas Cowboys. Sorry, Chad Duplantis. But it happens all the time. And I feel like a lot of leaders feel like I have to have all the answers. I have to be the person. I have to be in the spotlight. And truth is, I don't know. If you look, and I'll keep it in the sports world, if you look at the greatest sports leaders of all time, who won the most? It rarely was a Michael Jordan. He was a unicorn. It was like a Tim Duncan in basketball, right? It was the people who were very systems driven, who knew how to pull all the players together, knew what they did well, and let everybody do their job at the highest level, and together we're really smart. And we get a lot of cool stuff done. All right, Andrew. So what are like some of the other places like we totally screw it up?
Oh, ego. Ego is a big one, right? And I think there's a couple different ways of looking at this. Right? So you should have some ego. I think ego is good for people. I think it's a motivating factor. I think it's important to a small degree, not to a Jerry Jones degree, but to care about what other people think about your business, right? So if you have too much of an inflated ego, you're not going to keep progressing. You're going to think, hey, going back to the systems thing, I have all my systems in place. People just need to do them, right? I don't need to tweak them. I don't need to adjust for 10 years later when the business world has evolved, when AI has changed how claims are done or all these different things, or how to make people's lives easier. Like, I don't need to change all that stuff because I've been doing this for 40 years or whatever. Like, we're good to go. But then there's also the flip side of it where it's like, I need to always constantly be changing things. I think one of the things that bothered me, this is a couple of employers ago, was that they were never satisfied. They kept moving the goalpost. And I really, sorry, I just had like a whole, first things first, I watch sports thing. I'm trying to take us down the sports thing. But there's a little joke that they do about moving goalposts and stuff in football, and it's all the whole thing. Anyways, but it's like, if you keep moving the goalpost because you're trying to be the best, be the number one in your area. And now you're like, okay, well, I'm number one in my area. Now I need to be number one in my state. And then you're just so abrasive about it. I think that's a whole nother spectrum of the ego. So ego is a killer. And it's so hard to balance between both of those sides of it and just be right in the middle.
Agree.
Okay. So Andrew, finish the sentence. Your ego might be getting in your way if, how do we identify, because obviously,
oh man,
I feel like it's easy to be like, oh yeah, check your ego. All right. That's not me, but it might be me. How do you so for those that are listening that are nope, let's fast forward through this section because it's not me. Don't, because what about Andrew's going to say might mean it's you.
I honestly think that the people who listen to this aren't going to be the problem children. If you might have it if Pam, your colleague, tells you that you have an ego problem, that's going to be the thing. You need to surround yourself with people who are the best versions. And I think this is actually where I meant to go on a different point. I got sidetracked, but that whole you're a composite of the 5 people that you spend the most time around or whatever that whole thing is. Your best friends need to tell you if you have an ego problem. They need to tell you, and they might not come out and say, hey, it's your ego. They might not use that term necessarily, but they might say, hey, you have a hard time being wrong, or hey, you're looking in the wrong direction or whatever. They're going to give you the right advice. You should surround yourself with people who always question you though too. That's a thing that should happen where you're not surrounded by yes men, right? That's a whole different problem area that we get in sometimes in business. But the people who have the real ego problems, in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're not listening to this podcast. They already know everything. They're not going to try and learn from you guys. Come on.
That's a true story. Or they're listening so they can say, I clearly knew all that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm better than them. Why don't I have my own podcast? Oh my gosh, that's so funny. All right. So can we transition a little bit, because I feel like we're talking about us as individual business owners. And I always own this, that I'm very lucky because I have a small practice. So while I feel like I have a lot of systems dialed in. I've got an amazing team that I absolutely love. It's not that many people in the scheme of things. There are larger organizations and there's DSOs and there's, of higher forms, larger forms of leadership that could be effing things up way worse than me and my little practice. So can we talk about the larger organizations? And maybe, obviously, we've got listeners that are, maybe an associate, as part of a DSO or wanting to maybe create their own DSO. Let's talk about, some ways that DSOs are getting it wrong.
I mean, there's so many, so many ways. So let's break it down into, let's do, we'll do like mid-tier and then we'll do like the larger ones. I think it's easier because they have different problems, right? The mid-tier, maybe even the smaller ones, the emerging market ones that they talk about, sometimes they just don't have enough help in the leadership departments, right? So whether you don't have a compliance officer, right, that's a huge one. And whether you don't have someone that does just credentialing, like if you have 30 offices, it's a lot to credential your doctors and it takes a long time. And so you would have a department for, these types of things. Procurement's another big one. And it needs to be the right kind of person. It can't be someone that's coming from, I don't know, sorry, vacuum salesman, but like, it can't be a vacuum salesman that's going to come in and be like, hey, I can learn a database. I can talk to people and say, hey, can you give me 10 cents cheaper for this one piece of equipment? That's not what we want. We want someone with dental background who knows a lot of the players, who can get us the best deals. And then so we don't have enough leaders in the right, like, parts. One of the areas that gets overlooked the most is actually the dental assistants. It is rare to see. Go on Indeed. You have dental director job openings right now. I just went to one of my friends, actually, Dr. Pam, her, our friends. And I said, hey, here's this thing that's like $400,000 to be a dental director. This is a great opportunity if you're looking to get into that kind of space down the road. I just want to give her an idea what's out there. And then you like, okay, well, there's dental hygiene directors, there's dental hygiene regional directors, territory reps, whatever you want to call it. There's all this leadership structured within those two departments. When have you ever seen a dental assistant department? Almost never. And they're the backbone of our offices. Like, we don't have dental assistants, we are effed. So, I think that's what it is. And then it's also like qualified leaders, right? There are qualified leaders, but usually the bigger organizations will have your operations side, right? And then your clinical side. And then where they kind of mess up a lot is those two don't actually work together. They almost work at odds because you're looking at P&Ls and bottom lines for your operations side. And so you don't want to get maybe the upgrade to the equipment that you need or the AI source or resource that you need. There's so many different things that come in that way where you're looking at a completely different thing than what we're looking at as clinical side. And there is a way to marry those two, and it's actually not that hard. It works really, really well. But if you are too focused on just the one or the other, and same with some of the clinical, like if we're only clinical and don't worry about the business side, then we're shooting ourselves in the foot too. Gosh, David, I know you have a ton too. I'm trying to think like all of the different ones that we've screwed up on.
It's almost endless, but I think, you said a one word a number of times. It really was communication. It is that it's having the right structure. And then part of that structure is what's the game plan between operations and clinical? What's the game plan within clinical and the dentist, the hygienist, the assistants, and yeah, you're right. Assistants, they don't get enough love out there, and it's not just a feel good thing. It's Pam, I'm sure you'd agree. Like, there's no way I'm prepping 8, 10, a full arch, or even if I'm not that dentist, if I'm doing a quad or I'm surgically driven. Like, if I don't have the right person who's with me, I am dead in the water.
Oh my gosh, yes. It is such a big deal. And we should be developing our assistants as well. I feel like sometimes, correct me if I'm wrong, not a DSO girl, I almost feel like people are tired of clinical, so then they all of a sudden think that they're qualified to be a dental hygiene director or a dental director or something like that without the development. And so I feel like when it comes to even, anything, when it comes to clinical, an assistant, a young assistant that you're trying to elevate, I don't know why we don't try to elevate more people. I feel like in some ways, ego might be part of it. This concept of I don't have the time. You can't afford to not develop an assistant. Like if you have a great assistant and then like a junior assistant and the great assistant has a problem and now you're with the junior assistant, if you didn't develop them, you're not going to be able to prep the 8 crowns, as efficiently. Or, you walk out of the room, do a hygiene check. Does the whole appointment stop because you're not there? Talk about efficiencies and ways that you can destroy that. So no, I think that, if somebody is part of your team, we should be developing them. And I always, you talked about job descriptions earlier. In my book, I'm like, your job description is your practice act. Like, I want you to be able to utilize the practice act to the most, maximize it, not,
Absolutely.
prophies only, like that's crazy, or a suction only, crazy. There's so many things that your team can do depending on your state practice acts. And I'm like, you should be able to competently do, all of them. Obviously there's things we don't do in our practice, but if it's something that's relevant, it should be, part of the skill set. And if it's not, we need to get them there.
You know what I think happens though sometimes, and I could be very wrong. This is not every practice. I think there's something that's subconscious. It's way back there. It's like if I elevate this person, if I give them, let's talk about dental assistants for a minute. If I give them the opportunity to grow within the practice, they're going to realize that they have opportunity outside of my practice. They're going to leave me. And there's a real scarcity factor right now, especially with dental assistants too, and dental hygienists, all of them. But it's just like, if we train someone up, we want them to be with us for forever. And I think that there's a little bit of I don't know if it's nerves or whatever it is, but I think if we train them up, they're going to leave. Now, the bigger DSOs, the bigger of the biggers, they have institutions, they have whole like buildings for training and development. And they do that very specifically because they have a way to funnel those people into the next step, where the single office doesn't have a way to funnel them into something bigger. What's bigger than a dental assistant without going back to school? And how do you define bigger? Is it just like earning potential, or is it, satisfaction of job, or like, what does that exactly mean too? And so I think there's that hard part, and the smaller DSOs and like emerging markets and things like that, and the single practices, they don't have an incentive to really grow their people the way that they probably should. So again, you're a unicorn practice, Dr. Pam. Like it's different, but I also just think that people are just happy where they work there. And so like, if you're looking at like trying to find happiness and satisfaction, like you're not going to do that if you're not working to the top of your scope. Like you're always going to have something like in the back of your head being like, oh, why am I not doing that? Or why won't they let me do this? So
can I toss out like one problem that I see a bunch? Selling lies to people you're trying to bring in is a huge issue. Like just give first piece is just be honest. And if you feel like I have to sell a lie in order to bring in a hygienist, an assistant, an associate dentist, then maybe have the fortitude to sit back and be, what do I need to do differently within our structure so we are attractive to bring the right people on? Or it's going to feel, especially with scale, especially with groups, it's going to feel real good for about a year and a half, 2 years. You might get from level 1 to level 2 or level 3 in it, and then it's all going to implode, which is happening a lot out there, right?
Yeah. No, it's true. I think, and there's so many layers to what these lies are, right? So whether it's going to be, I don't know it for the dentist, but I would assume it's something like, the compensation, the ability to make money. Hygienists, if you're on a compensation model that is based on production, obviously that's part of the lie too. Also just like what the practice feels like, what the culture is, when you are actually working your day to day, will you have help? Will you, I'm trying to think about like all the things that the dental hygienists complain about. Will you have the tools that you need? Will you have the ability to get on the formulary, the fluoride or the, whatever that you like to do or sell or, do all these things. As for me, I worked in Washington, I did a lot of restorative. And so someone said, hey, Andrew, you're going to be our restorative hygienist doing lots of shots and fillings, buildups and stuff like that. And then they say, hey,
JK, you're actually going to be doing nothing but pro fees all day long. I would be so upset. I would be so upset by that because it's like, that's not what I want to do. And you guys told me one thing and you guys bait and switch. And I didn't love that. And so there's nothing that's going to frustrate your employees. Again, if you're thinking about, the quality, the experience of the employees, nothing's going to frustrate them more than just telling them something that's just patently not true.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, I think that if you listen to any leadership podcast or read books, people want to feel valued. So care about them, like legitimately care about them. And I think that that will go a long way. And that transcends 50 cents an hour or, whatever the, some of the cushier things are. Definitely don't lie to them. But also, I think there's something about caring about the people that you work with. You spend more time with these people than you do with some of your favorite family members. So, pick people, find people that you can care about and you can value and you can celebrate their wins and you don't mind elevating them because, seeing them grow makes you feel good. And, and it just helps give your patients a better experience and have better care. There's no downside to it.
Tom Brady increased 60 to culture.
But honestly, that's it. That's exactly what I was going to say. So like I was listening to Tom Brady give a thing, not to keep bringing it back to sports, but by the way, the reason why I like sports so much is it's a meritocracy. A meritocracy, like you work hard and you earn. And I think that in dentistry, I kind of are built that way. If you work hard, you'll earn. Like it's a beautiful parallel. But he was talking about caring and in the sense of like, hey, no one's going to listen to me. It doesn't matter how much time I spend in the weight room. It doesn't matter if I get there at 4 a.m. and don't leave until after midnight. No one's going to care about all of these things if they don't think that I care about them. And then later on, when I have to be the leader and I have to bark at them, then if they don't know, hey, on the backside, he loves me. Like he's just doing this so I can be successful, so we can win a ring, like that's the ultimate goal. If they don't really feel that, then they're not going to work hard. And they're not going to be successful as a team. And that same thing happens in our practices too. If our leaders don't really prove that they care, then the employee's not going to listen to a thing they say. They're not going to buy into philosophy. They're not going to buy into like culture. They're not going to buy into any of these other things. And there's just going to be a failure. And that's unfortunate.
And it's a two-way street. So I can tell you that there will be times as an owner, you need to be picked up by your team. Perfect example. I'm happy to share my crappy life sometimes. But when I lost my dad, I planned, the timeline that he passed because of the Catholic faith and Easter, like we had to push his services off like an extra week. So in my head, I was like, I guess I'll go to work on Monday. And my office manager's like, are you sure about that? I'm like, yeah, I think yeah. And then she canceled my day without even me knowing it. She canceled my week actually. And sometimes you need to be taken care of. Mm-hmm. And so if your walk that you walk is one of not caring, when you need to be lifted up or you need your hygienists to numb your patients because you're crying over your dad in your office, they're not going to do it. And I feel like for me, I am so grateful for the people around me that were like, you know what, we're going to like bound together and we're going to like pick this like sad little creature up and we're going to get her through her hour, her day, her week, her month, because that's what you do when you're a team, And so if you're not looking out for those, don't expect them to look out for you.
If I can just kind of like put the other part of the sandwich on after we just crapped all over, how bad leaders are. One of the things I like about organizations and mostly organizations, because I've been more a DSO guy, as you all know, for, most of my career, but even this happens at the office level too, is there's nothing like feeling like you're a part of something, right? Whether it's going to be you and the patient have partnered together on their health, whether it's going to be you and the team have decided to partner together to, build your community's health, whether it's going to be even, what you all do on kind of the national, international stage. Like there's so many things, like being a part of something gives you a sense of worth. And I think where we as leaders kind of need to do a better job is to really try and help people see that, help people feel that. And if we do that, we're all going to be like just so much more successful than we ever could be alone.
That feels like the perfect slice of bread to wrap up this sandwich. Now I'm hungry.
Well, Andrew, this
See me though. We have a lot more crap to talk about DSLs on the next one. Don't worry. Like there's still more.
We're coming back.
we need a part two. We need a part two, definitely.
Okay.
All right. Well, Andrew, you have to come back. We got to do it.
Okay. Would love to.
Awesome. Friends, thanks for hanging out with us. I know you loved this episode. If you're listening to this now, I did. I feel like I could do this for 3 more hours, hence part 2. But thanks for being here. Till next time.
Bye.
Ciao.
All right, listeners, that is our show for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to reach out to all of our guests. Give us a follow on social media. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you have a minute, head over to our website and sign up for our newsletter. All right, we'll see you on the next one. This has been a production of Endeavor Business Media, a division of Endeavor B2B.